So during acceleration, sometimes during constant throttle settings, I'm having a hesitation issue in the car. It's not that bad. It's kind of hard to explain. One of those things, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but you're accelerating from a stoplight and the car just kind of surges forward, back, kind of like that. You know what I'm talking about. So I've done a couple things: change air filter, clean the mass airflow sensor, kind of looked around and tried to see some obvious things, vacuum, leaks, all those types of things, and didn't really find anything wrong. So I decided to hook the scan tool up to it. Had no lights, no engine lights, nothing like that. Looked on there and actually had a failure code, but it hasn't happened long enough to actually trip a light. The failure code it gave me is the P0054. This is a 4-cylinder, so it only has one bank, the band 1, that's bank 1. It only has one bank. Sensor 2 is the downstream sensor, which is after the catalytic converter. Now, as we all know, all cars are computer operated now, and there's all types of sensors that tell it what type of fuel mixture to put into the engine. One of those are the oxygen sensors. So since the O2 sensor on this car is bad, one of them is bad, possibly because of the code we got, I'm going to try to change that, see if that erratic short-term fuel trim will go away and fix our hesitation problem. Now, O2 sensors are not cheap, so you want to make sure you're using a quality part. I like to use OEM parts, especially sensors, on my cars, because these things really need to talk to the computer and communicate properly with the proper voltages, and the cheaper sensors a lot of times will not work with the computers as well. You can change an O2 sensor from a cheap company and it could have the same problem again. So this one is actually Motorcraft. It's got a Ford emblem on it, and it even says NTK, made in Japan. Japan's parts are usually outstanding parts to use. Another thing you want to do, get an O2 sensor tool just like this one, right? Now, some cars you can actually get a wrench on it, and if it's not too tight, you can get the open end portion of the wrench or the closed end. Once you unplug it from the car, you put a closed end wrench on there and loosen it. There's some cars you do have enough room, but most cars you don't. So you might want to get one of these. If you don't have the money for it, whatever, you could try a wrench first. But what I would do is get it and check first to make sure it fits, especially in a little bitty car where you don't have any room. Make sure that your tool is going to fit properly first. It fits on the new one, so hopefully it'll fit on the old one also, because you just don't want to get down in there into a tight area, fight and realize you had the wrong tool to begin with. So let's go see where this is at. Oh yeah, and make sure you got some kind of anti-seize on it. This one comes with anti-seize already on the threads. Now let's go look at it. So now the oxygen sensors are in the exhaust system. They sense the air fuel mixture coming out of the car, and it adjusts the fuel, tells the computer how to adjust the fuel properly to get the correct ratio, air to fuel ratio that the car needs to run properly and not pollute the air. So it's on the exhaust system. I drove this car earlier, and you really want to make sure that you let the car cool, obviously, because exhaust is hot. So let's see if we can look all the way back here. This is the connector for the upstream O2 sensor. And if you look down there, at the end of that wire, you can see just the top portion of the upstream O2 sensor. But that's not the one that we're changing. The code is for the downstream. The downstream sensor is the sensor number 2. So we have a bank 1, sensor 2 code, and that's that one way down there. So I've got the car on ramps. More than likely I'm going to have to go underneath. So let's go under the car. And as you can see, underneath the car we can access it. There's the connector, and there's the sensor itself. Alright, so we have a little tab right here. Pushing that tab, pull the connector. Now let's see if we can get our O2 sensor tool on there. Tool's on there. Now we got to get the breaker bar connected. So it took a little bit of wiggling and fang-dangling to find the right position. And then we'll just turn it. Oh, it came loose. Now it was pretty easy because, well, we got lucky, but also I have a pretty good sized breaker bar on it. So let's take it out. So I got the old one out. And then what you want to do is, not a bad idea, to compare it to the new one. So we got them side by side. It's obvious which one's the old one. Looks like the wires are the same length. Connectors look pretty good, look similar, so let's replace it with the new one. It's also important that you put the wire somewhere with all this hot exhaust around that it's not going to burn the wires. So it's a good idea to take this and transfer it over to the new one. It kind of helps hold the wire out of the way. So with very limited room to video, let me see if I can even get this in there. Pretty simple. Put it in there and screw it in by hand as far as you can. That's very important, especially in such tight places, that you do not put a wrench right on it right away. Start wrenching on it, because you can cross thread it, then you'll have all kind of issues. You want to take your time, get it lined up, turn it by hand. You want to tighten it up by hand all the way until the nut contacts the seal up against the exhaust pipe. Then you put your wrench on it and tighten it up. All right, so now we have it all the way against the seal, and tighten it up. So when you put the wire in this little connecting arm right here, all it basically does is pull it over and keep the wire not tight, banjo tight, but tight enough to where no matter what you do, no matter how you drive, this wire is not going to come over and hit the exhaust. All right, so let's check out the car, see how it runs. All right, so it took for a test drive, and the oxygen sensor did not fix the hesitation problem that the car has. You know what? I crossed my fingers. I hope that maybe I could change one thing that I knew was bad, and it would fix two problems, but it didn't. You know what? You win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day. The good thing is, now you know how to change the oxygen sensor on a 2011 Ford Fiesta, which is almost the same exact procedure on any other car. So you can do it yourself. You want to save you a little bit of money. The diagnostic trouble code that we were getting, because that oxygen sensor is now gone, so that part is fixed. Now I just have to do a little more thinking and try to figure out what is causing the short-term fuel trim to go erratic and subtract so much fuel. Keep your money in your pocket by doing it yourself. Hope you have a great day.